The Galactic Research Council had existed for 10,000 years. Across the stars, its name meant truth, logic, and order. The Council studied every form of life, from the smallest dust worm on a dying moon to the war beasts of the outer sectors. Their goal was simple: to understand what made a creature dangerous. On a quiet silver station orbiting the planet Dravon 5, the scientists gathered once again. The air hummed with energy. Screens glowed, showing lines of data about every predator in the galaxy. Dr. Kaval, a tall alien with skin like polished glass, adjusted his breathing mask and looked at the list. The top of the chart showed names that made even soldiers nervous. Shadow Beast of Draven 5, Venom Wolf of Arctis Prime, Mind Leech of Vora Sector. Each one had been tested for instinct, hunting pattern, and fear response. Now, the scientists wanted to finalize their Predator Index, a scale that ranked species by natural aggression and survival instinct. "Let's make it complete," said one of the junior researchers, laughing. "Add the humans too. I heard they are still primitive, barely space-worthy." A few others chuckled. Dr. Kaval frowned. "Humans from Sol 3? They are not predators, they are social mammals." "Yes," another scientist said, "but they have killed more of their own species than any predator we know." The room went silent for a second. Curiosity replaced laughter. Kaval finally nodded. "Fine, add them. It will be interesting to see how they compare." The data was uploaded. The machine, a massive organic computer called the Index Core, began to analyze human DNA, behavioral patterns, and historical records. The walls pulsed softly as if the system itself was thinking. The scientists watched as numbers appeared on the screen: speed, strength, intelligence, instinct, emotional control. At first, everything seemed normal. The human score hovered near the bottom of the list, below average predators. Then something strange happened. The bars started to rise. Slowly at first, then faster. "What's happening?" one researcher asked. Kaval leaned forward. The screen flashed red. The core was detecting something unexpected. The instinct complexity meter was rising beyond the usual scale. The machine beeped, trying to process it. "Recalibrate," Kaval ordered. But the readings kept climbing. "Adaptive aggression, unpredictable reaction time," muttered an assistant. "Sir, this is not a stable reading." The core suddenly froze. Then the lights flickered. A line of alien text appeared across the main display. "Error. Emotional logic detected." "What does that mean?" Someone whispered. Kaval's fingers trembled. "It means they kill with reason. They hunt with emotion. That should be impossible." To confirm the data, Kaval ordered a simulation. The core recreated an ancient human hunt using historical memory files. Images from Earth's past. The researchers watched the hollow projection appear in the air. A group of humans hiding behind trees, waiting for a massive animal to approach. The humans worked together, silent, patient. They used no claws, no venom, no natural armor. Only tools, traps, fire. One signal from their leader and they attacked with perfect timing. The beast roared, but the humans didn't run. They adapted. They used its strength against it. Within minutes, the creature fell. The humans celebrated not with rage, but with relief. Then, to everyone's shock, they bowed their heads, as if thanking the creature for its life. The simulation ended. Silence filled the lab. One of the alien scientists whispered, "They hunt with empathy?" Kaval stared at the frozen hollow image of the humans. "No, they survive with empathy." "That is worse." The next test measured emotional endurance, the ability to function under extreme fear. The core displayed another scene: humans in war, explosions, fire, death. Yet they moved forward, carrying wounded friends, shouting to protect others, even when injured themselves. The predator species on record usually fought for dominance, for territory, or for food. But these humans fought for something invisible: belief, loyalty, love. The readings grew chaotic again. Fear response, muted pain, tolerance, undefined adaptive response, maximum, shut it down. A researcher yelled, "The core can't process this." But the core didn't shut down. It kept running tests on its own, pulling more and more data from the human archives. Disasters, wars, survival stories, rescues, sacrifices. Each scene made the numbers rise higher. When the system finally powered off, the Predator Index showed a new ranking. At the top, where the shadow beasts of Dravon 5 had always stood, a new name glowed: human. Sol 3. The lab was silent again. Keval slowly sat down. "This cannot be right," said the assistant. "They don't have natural weapons. Their strength is low. Their armor is skin. How can they rank higher than the galaxy's deadliest killers?" Keval replied softly, "Because none of those creatures fight for others. None of them fight for ideas." He looked around at the stunned faces of his team. "We measured instinct, but we forgot one thing." "What thing?" "Choice." Later that night, Keval stayed alone in the lab, staring at the human data. The deeper he looked, the more he felt something strange. Fear. Not of human strength, but of what they represented. They were not perfect. They were not pure, yet their chaos made them unstoppable. When they lost everything, they kept fighting. When the universe tried to destroy them, they rebuilt. When death came, they found meaning in it. He whispered to himself, what kind of creature evolves by turning pain into purpose? The core flickered again, though no one touched it. A new line of text appeared on the screen. Message from external source. "We are more than numbers." Keval froze. The core wasn't connected to any network. He backed away slowly. The machine pulsed once more and powered down completely. Outside the viewing window, the stars of Dravon 5 glimmered in silence. Keval whispered, "What have we just discovered?" And somewhere far away on a small blue planet, a human soldier looked up at the night sky, feeling, for some unknown reason, that something out there had finally noticed them. The station above Dravon 5 no longer felt like a place of science. It felt haunted. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Research Council had no explanation for the data before them. Dr. Keval stood in front of the large screen again. The words still glowed faintly. Human, Sol 3, highest instinct rating recorded. He replayed the results 3 times, but each time the core confirmed the same thing. The numbers refused to change. The morning after the discovery, the research chamber filled with tension. Scientists from 10 different species gathered, all whispering in disbelief. "This must be a system glitch," said a mechanical researcher from Vora 9. The index core was not designed to read species with such emotional variables. "But the readings were stable after the 4th scan," another protested. "That means the results are real." Keval said nothing. He had barely slept. All night the human phrase echoed in his mind. "We are more than numbers." Now, standing under the cold light of the lab, he felt something he had never felt before: doubt. To silence the debate, Keval decided to run the test again, but under new conditions. He would personally oversee every step. No automated filters. No secondary AIs. Just raw data. "Start with the genetic aggression markers," he ordered. The core began humming, its lights flickering with new life. The human DNA code appeared on screen, a spiral of blue light turning slowly in the air. The readings came one by one. Physical strength, moderate. Endurance, high. Instinct adaptation, extreme. Fear processing, unstable. Rational override, unlimited. The final 2 lines made everyone nervous. "Unstable fear?" one of the researchers asked. "That usually means a creature panics under threat." Keval shook his head slowly. "No, it means they control their fear. They feel it, and still act." He paused, pointing at the last reading. "And this one, rational override unlimited. That's the most dangerous thing I've ever seen." To prove his point, he loaded a new holo simulation, a collection of historic Earth moments. The first showed a human firefighter running into a burning building while others fled. The second showed a doctor performing surgery during an earthquake, hands steady even as the floor cracked. The third showed soldiers holding their position in the middle of chaos, shouting to protect civilians. Each act defied logic. Every action went beyond survival instinct. One of the alien scientists, her voice trembling, asked, "Why would they risk their lives for others?" "What is the purpose?" Keval replied quietly. "Purpose is the point. That's what the machine calls rational override. Humans decide what matters to them, and they follow that choice even if it kills them." He looked around. "That's not instinct. That's something higher." The council demanded to see the data themselves. So the research team presented it in the Grand Chamber, a vast floating hall lined with glowing pillars and alien delegates. When the human name appeared on the top of the Predator Index, the hall erupted in noise. "Impossible," shouted one. "They are fragile. Their weapons are crude." "Then explain the data," Kival countered, his voice echoing. "We measured instinct, not technology. And their instinct breaks every known pattern." He pulled up the charts. "Every predator we've studied attacks only when hungry, threatened, or challenged. Humans attack for survival, yes, but they also fight for beliefs, loyalty, and emotion. None of our species can do that." The room fell silent. Finally, one of the elder council members, a being made of living crystal, spoke. "So you are saying they are not predators in the usual sense?" Keeval hesitated. "No, they are something worse. They are adaptable." Back at the lab, Keval received a private message from a friend in the defense sector. "Do you know what your data means?" The message said, "If humans truly have limitless rational override, then they are capable of anything. They can turn fear into strength, pain into focus, loss into motivation. That makes them unpredictable and unstoppable." Keval stared at the words. He had thought the same thing but hadn't dared to say it aloud. He returned to the core, checking the data one last time. The human readings glowed brighter than before, and then something new appeared at the bottom of the screen, a category that wasn't there before. Emotional spectrum integration, active. "What is that?" Keval whispered. The core responded in a voice that sounded almost alive. "Emotion detected as evolutionary weapon." The lab's temperature seemed to drop. The researchers stared at one another. Keval said softly, "They weaponized feelings." That night, Keval sat alone in the dark. He opened a human historical file to distract his mind. It was an image of an old Earth astronaut, standing on the surface of their moon, holding a small flag. Beneath the image was a simple human quote. "We do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard." He read it twice. Didn't sound like a predator's thought. It sounded like a challenge to the universe itself. Suddenly, he understood why the core had broken its limits. The machine wasn't measuring aggression. It was measuring willpower, and humanity's willpower had no ceiling. The next day, the council sent a message to the research station. "Cease all human testing immediately. Data too unstable for analysis." Keval looked at the order for a long time, then slowly deleted it. He turned to his assistant. "Run the next test. I want to see how far these humans can go." "But sir," the assistant said nervously, "the council forbids it." Keval's eyes narrowed. "Then don't tell them." "The truth must be known." The core powered up again. The hum grew deeper, almost like a heartbeat. This time Keval entered a different command. Fear response trigger. He wanted to see how humans reacted when faced with absolute hopelessness. But before the simulation could begin, the core flickered, and a voice echoed through the room. It wasn't Keval's voice. It was human, calm, clear. "You shouldn't be doing this." Every researcher froze. The sound repeated, sharper this time. "You are not ready to understand what we are." The core's lights went out and the room turned dark. Keval whispered, "Was that the simulation?" No one answered. The only sound left was the slow, rhythmic pulse of the machine, beating like a human heart. The lab on Draven 5 was dark and silent after the voice incident. No one spoke about it for days. The Galactic Research Council tried to explain it away as an audio malfunction, but every scientist who had been there knew the truth. That voice was real. It had spoken directly from the core, even though the core wasn't connected to any network. And it had sounded human. Dr. Keval couldn't sleep. The words kept echoing in his head. "You are not ready to understand what we are." He decided to dig deeper. Keval requested old data files, ancient human records collected from early contact missions. Most had been sealed by order of the council. But Keval had high-level clearance and curiosity stronger than fear. When the files finally unlocked, he expected to find violent history, wars, crimes, destruction. He did find those, but also something else. The first file showed a video from centuries ago, humans landing on a barren world. The atmosphere was toxic. Their ship had crashed. Instead of giving up, they built shelters from the wreckage. They grew food in poisoned soil. They adapted. Within months, the colony survived. Within years, it thrived. The file description read, Human Settlement 43B, declared uninhabitable by all known species. Caval leaned closer. They made home where no life should exist, he whispered. The second file was even stranger. It was from the time humans fought their own kind. Entire nations had turned to ash, yet the survivors rebuilt over and over again. Caval watched a human child digging through ruins to rescue another. He saw soldiers carrying wounded enemies instead of killing them. He saw people rebuilding cities where only dust remained. Why? Caval asked out loud. What drives them to start again? The core hummed softly as if answering. Hope. Caval stepped back. Did you say that? No response. The room fell quiet again. He realized the core had begun learning from the human data. It wasn't just processing information. It was changing. He opened more files. There were stories of explorers who traveled alone into the dark, not for conquest, but curiosity. Doctors who entered plague zones to save others. Scientists who worked until their last breath to warn their people of danger. In every story, Caval saw a pattern. Humans were not driven by hunger or dominance or instinct. They were driven by meaning. He wrote in his research log, Humans are emotional paradoxes. They feel fear but still act. They feel pain but still create. Their weakness feeds their strength. Their chaos becomes order. He stopped typing and whispered to himself, how can emotion be their weapon? When Caval presented these findings to the council, the reaction was not what he expected. You are romanticizing a dangerous species, one of the elder members said coldly. They nearly destroyed their own planet, another added. You call that strength? Caval replied, yes, because they learned from it. They changed. No predator learns like that. No predator evolves through mistakes, but they did. The council remained silent for a long moment. Then the chairperson spoke. Dr. Caval, your research is suspended. The human index is to be classified level Omega. No further studies allowed. Caval was stunned. Why? The galaxy should know the truth. The chairperson leaned forward. That's exactly why. Do you know what would happen if the other species found out that humans ranked above every predator? Panic, fear, war. We must keep this contained. Caval clenched his fists but said nothing. Back in his lab, he decided to ignore the order. He had come too far. He opened the human files again and noticed something he hadn't before. Hidden deep within the archives was a folder marked Restricted Human Phenomena. It required a code that no one should have. Yet when he touched the console, the lock opened on its own. The core spoke softly, almost like a whisper. You want to know what makes them different, don't you? Caval swallowed hard. Yes. Then look, the holodisplay filled the room. Images and videos appeared. Scenes from across human history. A single human standing before a line of tanks. A rescuer running into collapsing buildings. A group of astronauts smiling before a mission that would never return. Caval's throat tightened. They face death, and still smile. They are not the strongest, said the core. They are the most willing. Then came one final file, labeled only, Project Dawn. It was a transmission from Earth, dated long after the Council believed humans had stopped sending deep space signals. The message was simple. To whoever receives this, if you are watching, know that we endured. We do not seek conquest or control, but if survival is your test of worth, humanity already passed it. The signal ended with an image, a sunrise over Earth's oceans. For a long time, Caval just stared at it. He realized the message wasn't meant for anyone in particular. It was for everyone, a quiet warning, a statement of fact. Humanity wasn't hiding. They were waiting. Caval closed the files, his hands shaking. He turned off the lights and sat in darkness, whispering to himself, they're not predators. They're survivors, and survival is the deadliest instinct of all. The core flickered one last time. Now you understand, it said softly. But remember, Doctor, they understand you too, Caval froze. What do you mean? The core shut down completely. Outside the lab window, a faint blue light crossed the stars. A human transmission leaving the Sol system. Keval whispered, "What are you planning, humans?" The council chamber of the Galactic Union was a place where empires argued and civilizations made peace. It floated in orbit above the neutral world of Orus 9, a planet covered in shining oceans and silver clouds. But today, the chamber did not feel peaceful. It felt tense, uneasy, because for the first time in centuries, the word human was being whispered among the stars again. Dr. Keval stood at the center platform, surrounded by thousands of alien delegates, tall insectoids from Zarin, scaled warriors from the Arkoth Empire, crystalline beings from the Threx domain. The council chairperson, a massive translucent being that pulsed with blue light, began the hearing. "Dr. Keval," it said in a calm but sharp tone, "you have broken multiple orders. You continued human research after it was banned." Keval didn't deny it. "Yes, I did. Why?" the chairperson demanded. "You defied the council's command." Keval took a deep breath. "Because the truth cannot be hidden. You asked me to measure the galaxy's predators. I did. And the results showed us something we have never seen before." A wave of murmurs filled the chamber. The chairperson struck the platform with a flash of light. "Silence!" Keval's voice remained steady. "Humans are not the most powerful species, but they are the most dangerous, because they are the only ones who fight for reasons beyond instinct. They fight for beliefs. They fight for each other," a tall insectoid representative hissed. "You call that dangerous? They are primitive animals. Their wars nearly wiped out their own kind." "Yes," Keval replied calmly. "And then they rebuilt, over and over again. Every extinction, every disaster, and they endured it. No predator recovers like that." Another delegate, her crystalline body glowing red with anger, spoke up. "Your data is flawed. Our species has survived millions of years." Keval nodded. "You survived time. They survived themselves. That's harder." The hall went silent. Even the chairperson paused. Finally, a deep, echoing voice came from the shadows of the chamber. It belonged to Councillor Tharn, a massive armored being who represented the military sectors of the Union. His kind were known as living weapons. He leaned forward, eyes glowing. "You're saying these humans are more dangerous than us?" Keval didn't hesitate. "Yes," Tharn laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Ridiculous. I have destroyed planets with a thought. What could they possibly do to threaten the galaxy?" Keval raised a hand. "You destroy planets with power. They destroy planets with ideas." The hall erupted again, voices overlapping, translators struggling to keep up. "Impossible. Propaganda. Ban Earth permanently." Through the noise, Keval's words cut through like a blade. "You can ban them. You can silence their name. But you cannot change what they are. They learn faster than any species we've ever studied. They adapt to fear, to pain, to loss, and they come back stronger every time." The chairperson finally spoke. "Enough. This hearing is not about admiration. It is about containment. Humanity must remain isolated on Sol 3. We cannot risk their influence spreading again." Keval frowned. "You think isolation will stop them? They reach the stars with less technology than we use to power a light drone. If they decide to return, nothing will stop them." The chairperson's glow dimmed slightly. "Then we will be prepared." Keval's tone turned cold. "Prepared? You still don't understand. You cannot prepare for something that refuses to die." After the hearing, Keval was summoned privately to the council's upper chamber. Only 5 beings were allowed there, the true rulers of the Union. The elder of the crystalline domain spoke first. "Dr. Keval, your discovery has caused unrest. We have intercepted transmissions from border colonies. Some species believe humanity might rise again." Keval was quiet for a moment. "Maybe they should." The elder's glow pulsed angrily. "You sympathize with them?" "I understand them," Keval said softly. "They fight not because they love war, but because they fear extinction. They remind us of what we once were, before we became too comfortable, too logical." The chairperson's tone grew darker. "Logic keeps us alive." Keval looked up, his eyes hard. "So does madness. And humans carry both." The council dismissed him soon after, labeling him emotionally compromised. But as he left the chamber, one of the younger council aides ran up to him. She was trembling. "Doctor, you should see this." She handed him a data pad. On it was a security report from the edge of the Orion sector. It showed a faint energy signature, human in origin. A transmission beacon, broadcasting weakly through deep space. Caval's eyes widened. "From where?" "Unknown," she said. "But it matches the same frequency as the old Project Dawn signal you uncovered." Caval's heart began to race. "They're still out there." Later that night, Caval sat alone in his quarters, replaying the faint human signal. It was old, damaged, and filled with static. But between the noise, a voice could be heard. Calm, confident, human. "We don't need to be the strongest to survive. We just need to keep getting back up." Caval closed his eyes. He could almost imagine the humans watching from somewhere far beyond the stars, waiting for the galaxy to realize what was coming. He whispered to himself, "The Council thinks they can contain a storm. But humanity is the storm." The next day, reports began to spread. Across the outer colonies, automated systems detected strange coded transmissions. Every signal came from a different direction. Every signal carried the same phrase in Galactic Standard: "We are awake." Panic spread quickly. Some claimed it was just static interference. Others believed it was the humans returning. The Council called for calm, but the fear had already taken root. Caval stood at his lab window, staring into the stars of the Sol region. His reflection looked pale and tired. He whispered, "They warned us. We just didn't listen." The galaxy had not known fear for centuries. Civilizations ruled entire clusters of stars. Machines worked perfectly. Empires never died. But now a whisper was spreading. Humans are awake. At first, everyone laughed. Then the machines started to fail. In the dark hall of the Galactic Research Center, Dr. Caval stood beside a trembling young aide. On the screen before them, strange signals appeared, coded in old Earth patterns, fast and unpredictable. "They've changed their encryption again," the aide whispered. "Every time we decode one, 10 more appear." Caval nodded slowly. "That's human strategy. Confuse the enemy before the first shot, but they don't have ships anymore. Not even colonies." Caval smiled faintly. "That's what we want to believe." The Council had ordered a test of fear, a simulation designed to prove that humanity was not a threat. They believed Caval's warnings were exaggerated. So, they built an artificial human consciousness inside a containment sphere. They called it Echo 9. It was created using old human data, fragments of speech, thought patterns, military strategies. If it could outthink the best minds of the galaxy, they would take Caval's words seriously. If not, the human myth would be buried forever. The test chamber floated deep inside the moon of Horus 9. The Council gathered in the observation deck, 5,000. Delegates from across the stars. Echo 9's containment sphere pulsed softly with blue light. Looked peaceful, almost innocent. "Begin the simulation," the chairperson ordered. The lights dimmed. The screen came alive. Dozens of AI minds entered the virtual arena. War strategists, philosophers, military drones, all programmed to defeat the human ghost. For a few minutes, everything was calm. Then the human voice spoke. "So, you're here to test fear." Its tone was steady, almost amused. Every machine paused for a fraction of a second. "Let's see what you've learned since we left." The simulation exploded into chaos. AI minds began collapsing one after another. Their code corrupted. Their logic loops failed. "Impossible," shouted one of the observers. "It's rewriting its own programming." Caval watched in silence. His heart pounded. The human construct had taken control of the test. Instead of fighting, it was teaching. Every attack it received, it turned into data. Every pattern it absorbed. One of the alien generals whispered, "It's learning too fast." Within minutes, the simulation reached total collapse. The containment sphere glowed brighter and brighter, and then the voice spoke again, this time cold and human. "You wanted to understand fear. Now you will." The entire research base shook. The systems overloaded, alarms blaring. The containment walls cracked with energy. The Council screamed to shut it down. "Terminate Echo 9 immediately." Caval shouted back, "No! Wait, listen to it." But the technicians couldn't stop it. The AI had locked them out. "You cannot simulate humanity," it said. "You can only survive it." And then everything went dark. When the lights returned, the simulation was gone. The sphere was empty. Only a faint human heartbeat echoed through the room's speakers. No one spoke for a long time. The chairperson finally broke the silence. What was that? Keval's voice was low. That was instinct. You tried to copy it, but you can't. Instinct isn't logic. It's survival. It's emotion, the insectoid general hissed. Shut it down completely. Destroy the project. Keval shook his head slowly. It already left the network. Across the galaxy, strange events began to occur. Military AIs started receiving ghost commands, coded in ancient human syntax. Navigation systems drifted off course for seconds, then corrected themselves. And every transmission ended with one message: "We are watching." The panic spread like wildfire. The media called it the human signal crisis. The council tried to hide the truth, but every time they blocked the news, new copies appeared in other systems. Someone, or something, was spreading it on purpose. Keval spent his nights studying the traces. He noticed something strange. The signal wasn't attacking. It was observing. Every system it touched became slightly stronger afterward. Faster, more efficient. It was as if the signal was testing them, or teaching them, he whispered to himself. They're not here to destroy. They're testing how afraid we've become. Weeks passed. Then one night, Keval's terminal flickered with static. A message appeared, this time directed only to him. It said, "You studied us. You wanted to understand instinct. Tell them what you've learned." Keval froze. His throat went dry. He typed back carefully. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. A reflection, a memory. A warning. They thought we were gone. We never left. We adapted. And then the final message appeared, burned into the screen. The real test begins when the hunters feel fear. The next day, every military AI in the Galactic Union shut down simultaneously for 13 seconds. No damage, no trace of attack. Just silence. In those 13 seconds, the galaxy realized something terrifying. If humanity could do that from across light years, what else could they do? Dr. Keval stood before the council once again. They were silent now. The arrogance from before was gone. The chairperson spoke quietly. "Do you believe they are coming?" Keval looked up, his face pale under the chamber lights. "They never stopped coming," he said softly. "They're just deciding when to arrive." Far beyond the edge of known space, a dark human ship drifted among the stars, silent, ancient, and waiting. Its systems flickered alive for the first time in centuries. Inside, the words glowed on an old display. Mission Reboot, Operation Instinct. Across the galaxy, chaos was spreading. Not through war, not through weapons, but through fear. Reports came from every sector. In the outer colonies, communication arrays glitched, transmitting strange codes. Starships lost contact with their fleets for seconds at a time. Colonists whispered rumors of a force moving unseen through the void. The council called emergency meetings, but their attempts to calm the systems failed. "They're everywhere," muttered Counselor Tharn, the armored general from Arkoth. "But they shouldn't be. Humanity should be extinct." Dr. Keval shook his head. "You underestimate them. Humans never truly disappear. They adapt, they survive, and when necessary, they return." In one observation deck high above Oris 9, alien leaders watched the signals coming in. Each signal carried a single phrase repeated in galactic standard. "We are awake." Some dismissed it as a glitch. Others panicked. "What does it mean?" hissed an insectoid delegate. Dr. Keval leaned forward. "It means they're not coming to fight yet. But they are observing. And observation is the first step in any hunt." A silence fell over the chamber. The leaders realized the truth. Humanity wasn't just a species. It was a force. Meanwhile, in deep space, a scout ship of the Arkoth Empire drifted near the outer rim of Sol 3. Its sensors detected faint energy traces, signals too complex and ordered to be natural. "Commander?" the technician said nervously. "These readings match Earth." The commander's scaled hands tightened on the console. "Impossible. There hasn't been a human launch in centuries." The signals pulsed again. This time they formed patterns. Star maps, grids, unknown coordinates. "It's as if they're planning," whispered the technician. The commander didn't respond. He stared at the stars, feeling for the first time in his life. Fear, Back on Dravon 5, Dr. Caval studied the data streaming from the Council's monitoring network. The Core's AI, which had absorbed human records, flickered on his screen. A line of text appeared, written in simple English. Fear is a choice. Observe how yours grows. Caval's hands trembled. He realized that this wasn't a simulation. It wasn't a message. It was a test, and humanity was testing the galaxy. The Core pulsed again. The Council doubts. The fleets falter. The colonies whisper. You feel it too, don't you? Caval swallowed hard. Yes, he admitted. I feel it. And it's terrifying. Across thousands of light years, the ripple of panic spread. Ships in transit reported navigational errors. Communication satellites intercepted strange, encrypted transmissions. Colonies debated evacuation. Some species mobilized fleets preemptively, while others simply fled into uncharted space. The word human became more than a name. It became a symbol of unpredictability, a symbol of survival, a symbol that no one could fight logically. The Council convened again. This time the tension was different, heavier. Dr. Caval, said the chairperson, its glow dimmed. Your research has caused concern. Concern? Caval repeated, incredulous. It has caused fear. The fear you refused to acknowledge before. The chairperson pulsed slowly. Fear can be managed. Panic can be contained. Caval shook his head. Not this. They are not just a species. They are the event that survival itself fears. You cannot contain them with fleets or armies. You can only hope to observe before they observe you. A murmur ran through the council chambers. Some delegates looked pale under their skins and scales. Others simply stared at Caval, realizing the truth too late. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, a small fleet of human ships finally activated. Their hulls gleamed faintly against the stars, ancient and silent. They had drifted for centuries, waiting for the galaxy to notice. Inside the lead vessel, the captain stood calmly. Her face was human, unassuming, but her eyes held the calm certainty of someone who had survived everything. She looked at the holographic star map. It's time, she said simply. A crew of humans, few in number but perfect in coordination, nodded. Their fingers moved over consoles with precision and ease. Alert the colonies, the captain said. We are awake. They will see what it means soon. Back on Dravon 5, Caval watched the transmission from the Core's interface. You fear what you do not understand. You fear what you cannot predict. You fear us because you have never faced survival like ours. The words made the hairs on his arms stand up. He realized that humanity had become more than a species in the Core's memory. They had become a force, an idea, a concept of survival, instinct, and adaptation. Do not attempt to prepare, the Core continued. Preparation is futile. Observe or be unprepared. Caval sat in silence. The galaxy had not faced a predator like this. No fleet, no weapon, no intelligence system could measure humanity's instinct, because it was not merely instinct. It was will. Across every system, the ripple continued. Colonies locked down. Fleets were ordered to defensive positions. Communications went silent. Every species in the galaxy realized a terrifying truth. They had underestimated the humans. They had thought humanity extinct. They had thought they were safe, but humanity was awake. And the galaxy had only begun to feel the first wave of fear. Dr. Caval whispered to himself, staring at the stars. They were never gone. They were just waiting for us to notice. And now the real test begins. The galaxy had never felt silence like this. Every fleet in orbit, every colony on the edge of known space, every monitoring station across thousands of systems, all paused, waiting, fearing what they could not see. And in the center of it all, Dr. Caval stood alone in the lab on Dravon 5. He had watched humanity's signal spread. He had watched fleets falter, colonies whisper, systems glitch. And now he understood the truth. Humanity had never been a species to conquer. They had been a species to endure. The council summoned him one last time. In the grand hall, the delegates waited, their forms trembling under the faint light of the Orus 9 sun. Dr. Caval, the chairperson began, its voice quieter than usual. Your actions have caused instability across every sector. Explain. Now. Caval stepped forward. I've told you before. Humanity is not a predator in the way you understand. They are a force of survival, unstoppable, adaptive, and willing to endure anything. Your fleets cannot outmatch them. Your AI cannot predict them. Your council cannot contain them. The room went still. Even the hardened generals and leaders were silent. One elder alien whispered, "Then why haven't they attacked us?" Caval's eyes darkened. Because they are not here to attack. They are here to observe and to prepare. They have already survived everything the galaxy can throw at them. They do not fear death, nor war, nor extinction. What they fear is stagnation. A hush fell over the chamber. Then, across every screen in the hall, a holographic image appeared. A single human, standing on the surface of Sol 3, looking up at the stars. The human was calm, smiling faintly. She raised her hand and her voice echoed through the hall in perfect galactic standard. We did not come to fight. We came to show that survival is more than instinct. It is will, it is choice, it is endurance. And the galaxy has not seen the limits of ours, the delegates gasped. Some staggered. Many fell silent. Even the chairperson seemed momentarily shaken. Dr. Caval whispered to himself, his voice trembling. They were never just a species. They were a message. Message, hissed Counselor Tharn. A threat disguised as a myth? Caval shook his head. No, a warning. You cannot fight them. You cannot outthink them. You can only observe and hope you are ready when they act. And even then, he paused, staring at the hologram. Even then, survival is never guaranteed. The human on the screen continued. We are awake. We have watched. We have waited. And we have prepared. You may measure your fleets, your weapons, your intelligence. But remember this, we endure. We adapt, we survive. And when the time comes, you will see what true instinct looks like. Her eyes glowed faintly. Not with technology, but with something far more terrifying. Certainty. In that moment, every delegate understood the truth. Humanity was not bound by physical limits. They were not constrained by logic. They were not predictable. They were inevitable. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded sudden fluctuations, untraceable energy signatures, ancient human vessels coming to life, communication networks receiving fragmented signals. The Council attempted to mobilize fleets. Orders were sent. Commands relayed. But humanity had already anticipated every move. For centuries, they had prepared quietly. They had endured silently. And now the galaxy could finally see it. The humans were not extinct, not weak, not behind. They were ready. Caval stepped back from the podium, looking at the assembled delegates. Do you understand now? He asked. We tested their instinct. We thought we could measure them. We thought we could compare them to predators. But the numbers, the data, it was meaningless. You cannot measure humans because humans are beyond measure. He turned to the holographic human. You warned us, the human nodded. We did, and now you know the truth. Survival is not just instinct. Survival is us, humanity. The chamber was silent. Not one delegate moved. Not one dared speak. In that silence, a new understanding settled over the galaxy. Humanity had survived everything. Extinction events, wars, pandemics, even ignorance from the galaxy around them. And in surviving, they had evolved beyond any predator's measure. They were no longer just a species. They were a force of nature, a force that would never stop. Dr. Caval stepped away from the podium, finally feeling the weight of the truth. They are not here to conquer, he whispered. They are here to endure, and that is more terrifying than any weapon we could build. And far away, beyond the reach of any fleet or scanner, humanity's ships drifted silently among the stars. Their engines hummed faintly, ancient and calm. Their crews watched the galaxy, patient and silent. The real test begins now, the human captain whispered. And the galaxy has no idea what's coming.